Thank you, Andrew. This will be the first of 5 webinars that Covance will be providing on drug development. And as Andrew mentioned, it's what we're going to talk about today is an integrated approach to successful drug development. I want to start off by inviting you to participate in a venture. What I'd like you to do is to write checks that will in total be between $1.3 to $2 billion. And I'm going to invest that money over a period of 9 to 15 years. The likelihood of success for what I'm going to develop is about 1%, which means that 99% of the products that I develop will fail. There's going to be a constant downward pressure on price. So whatever price I get when I start to sell my products will decrease over time. And on the 20th year after I start the development, 90 to 95% of my sales will erode within about 3 months. So there's a very large risk and a huge investment. And what I'd like to ask you is, would you like to invest in my venture? So, Andrew, can you send out the first questionnaire?
Yeah, so we have a poll question for the audience. Would you join Dr. Lang's venture here? So you can vote on this by clicking on your screen. Your options, of course, are yes and no. Will you join my venture? Okay, looks like most of you have voted at this point. So I'm going to close polling. You can get your last clicks in if you'd like. I'm going to close polling now and share the results with you. And it looks like it's split down the middle. 50% said yes and 50% said no. With that, I'll hand it back to you.
Well, thank you. Well, welcome to the pharmaceutical industry, and that's sort of what the venture looks like. So let's look a little bit about what's actually happening in this industry. And there are various groups that are, and various changes that are occurring that impact the overall environment. We'll take it here from the top. Let's look at the payers. The payers are the groups that are actually paying for the services that we're providing. Healthcare costs are increasing. You have managed care organizations who are trying to decrease the costs, are trying to limit the access to products. They're not interested in paying for new products. They're trying to force companies to use more and more generics, and they're not overly interested in paying for public health innovations that don't have large benefits to large groups of people. If you look on the demand side, you see larger numbers of patients with higher and higher expectations. You're seeing very high medical costs. You're seeing more informed consumers. It used to be difficult to get medical information about different disease conditions. Today, anybody with access to the internet can get most of the information very, very easily. And then in addition to that, we're seeing an aging population. And unfortunately, as we all age, we develop more and more medical conditions. There's a lot more demand. If we look at the innovation side, the biology is a lot more difficult. The easy targets, things like hypertension, some of the anti-infectives, those are all gone. And now we're dealing with diseases that are a lot more complex, and we don't understand the biology as well as we did with some of the early conditions. The technology, looking at genomics, gene therapy, is a lot more complicated than just dealing with small molecules. And regulatory authorities are requiring more and more information to approve products and to allow them to come to market. It used to be that you could come to market with very, very small data sets. Today, some of these get very, very large. I've seen programs where companies have put together data sets or safety data sets with 25,000 patients and still have not been approved. If you think a cost of $50,000 or $60,000 per patient and you multiply that by 25,000, you realize that these things become very, very expensive. Then if we look at pricing pressures, you have generics. The generics are typically very cheap. The generic companies are very aggressive. You have parallel imports. Parallel importation is a process that you see a lot in Europe, whereby you can have a country like Germany that is willing to pay higher prices for a drug product, and then you have a country like Greece where they're not willing to pay those high prices. But then the German regulatory authorities or health authorities realize that a good solution to get the drug cheaply is to just purchase it directly from Greece. So it's very difficult to maintain a differential in price, and it rapidly spirals downwards. You have switches from prescription to over-the-counter. And when you have these switches, essentially what's happening is payers are switching the cost of the drugs and putting it directly on the patient by making it over-the-counter, and then the insurance company does not have to pay for it. And then you have reference pricing. Again, your first hurdle is getting the product approved. It has to get approved by the regulatory authority. But a more important hurdle is getting somebody to pay for it. And oftentimes, the insurance companies or the payers are going to look at the price of the product and say, this product is not all that different from previous products that may have been on the market. We don't actually want to pay a whole lot for it, so we're only going to pay you a little bit more than what a generic product.